Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Right, it's a bonobo on the other end. This is nFxus Influence, and as you can hear on the other side here, I've got a special bonobo friend, Lothens.
Hello, I am the bonobo. How we doing today, boss?
Not too bad, not too bad. Got a little bit of a frog stuck in my throat, but I think it's day one jitters, but you know, that's how it goes. Other than that, though, I think we're going to have some good conversations today about the elite and who runs the show. Like,
oh my
who's
God,
really behind the fucking scenes. We're going to try and wrinkle a
strings.
Brain. I'm not sure, but let's try and wrinkle a brain or two. How's it sound to you?
Man, give me an extra brain cell along the way. Holy. So I've got like 2 brain cells, and Grimsey, I was talking to him the other day, and he decided that what happened to my 2 brain cells was they've been rubbing together for so long that erosion happened, and they've just become smooth. So the only 2 brain cells I have left are just smooth. So I got no chance.
Sure we do. I'm pretty sure we can add a little bit of a wrinkle or two here and there inside that. I mean, if it was once a wrinkle before, I'm sure we can get a wrinkle again.
I don't know. Do they come back? Can you do reverse erosion?
That's the whole hope of the show, I guess. Can we provide a wrinkle to a smooth brain? All right, on that note, let's dive into who and how. Let's give everybody a little idea of how we're going to do this. The way the show is going to be laid out is one of us are going to come up with a topic, and each show, whoever created the topic is going to be the moderator for the said option or said show. Yeah, the host. Yeah. Thank you. I got a phone call. My dumbass didn't freaking mute. Anyways, the host will then set out the guidelines.
Fire this man.
Bring in a topic of their choosing. The other individuals that'll be a part of the show will have a few days to, get an idea of what the topic is via the channel that we post things in for the show. And then we'll sit down and we'll create some bullet points, and then we'll just discuss the topic at hand. I'm nobody special. I'm just some hick that lives in the sticks of the 606. So it is what it is for me. This bonobo over here,
that sounded pretty impressive. It's like, that was slick.
You like that, did you?
606 represent.
This bonobo over here, he's been a country boy most of his life. So I mean, we ain't nobody special over here. We're just some apes trying to make it through the way, noticing what's out there, and having a discussion to see if we can enhance somebody's days. So
I'm just trying to figure it out, just like everybody else around here,
Yeah, absolutely. Lord have mercy.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
But let's get on with the show. Today's topic again is the elite and who runs the show. So, from my point of view, because I'm the host today, I live in I don't know, you could call it a delusional state of mind. So these other bonobos tell me. But I tend to find and look for every single dot right? If there's a dot, there's a reason for a connection. So I see all this crap that's going on, and like I see Dr. Evil, Klaus Schwab, and then his fucking minions running around, George Soros and all these other people just absolutely tossing dollar bills out because, I mean, what better way to get a pit to attack somebody than to dangle a steak on them, you know what I'm saying? So constantly just flooding the damn scenes. And I think it's a trickle down type thing, the 1% bullshit pyramid that goes on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up the Illuminati and then look at the pyramid, right? These people are, the Illuminati is controlled by the WEF and the WHO and, all of these global conglomerates that we have, for some reason, allowed to just take control, right? Some say it's through laws and constitutions and all this other jazz, but hell, that shit was created before I was ever born and had the chance to open my eyes, right? So I don't know other than being told, hey, this is how things operate. This is how the U.S. operates, this is how the EU operates, how, UK, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody has their own laws and rules. And, personally, I think they're guidelines. I don't know about you, Lo, but it's just like I can drive down the road and every time that a cop goes whizzing past me doing 80 miles an hour in a 55 without his lights on, it's for some reason okay. But I'm punished if I do the exact same thing, right? So it's more of guidelines than anything. And we're allowing these people who, from my point of view as an American citizen, they're living somewhere in some freaking special island like Dr. Evil and with their pinkies up to their lips going, we're going to tell, Billy Gates over there in America to just depopulate half their people or to release some mosquitoes up in the sky. And fucking Billy Gates does it. Like, what the hell? I didn't authorize Billy Gates to do that shit. Nor did the government, right? But now the government's got all kinds of bullshit that they're trying to push down on us anyways, from my point of view. Just today, seen some bullshit pop off for Ukraine. And it's just like, what the fuck? So, me personally, I think the WEF and that little small group of people, and we're talking the 300, if you will, right? I'm going to use that as the movie as well. I mean, they think they're the 300 and we're the freaking Persians, and we have to be dealt with. So, I don't know, Lo. I'll let you grab a piece inside here. I've kind of hardcore popped it. What do you think? I mean,
my question is, if Charles Schwab is Dr. Evil, who's Mini-Me?
Well, that's going to be George Soros, probably, in my opinion. Well, but he's also he's Emperor Palpatine as well, too. So, and if you've never seen that image, ladies and gentlemen, just look up Soros Palpatine. Go ahead.
It is pretty funny. I must admit, it's spot on, fairly well. But what I heard about a long time, many moons ago, as we say here in the sticks, okay, was that when the Council on Foreign Affairs was established in the United States, that's when sort of the shadow government was in place, was starting to entrench itself behind the scenes. Like these are the major movers and shakers of world politics, right? And they were the ones starting to pull the strings of, this is who we want as president, which make sure that they get out there, make sure everybody loves them, make sure they get elected, this and that and the other. And, the funniest thing about elections in general, just as a sort of small little tangent here, the United States population don't actually elect the president, right? The general election, and right, this was the popular vote, right? So this was proven when George W. won the presidency, but he lost the popular vote to what's his face? Al Gore, right? So he lost the popular vote to Al Gore, but he won the presidential primary election, because who actually elects the president is
The Electoral College.
there you go. I'm telling you, the erosion was like really kicking in there. The Electoral College. So it's clear that there are movers and shakers behind the scenes pulling some strings here and there, where what we perceive as, our country, our democracy, our republic, whatever you want to call it, it's supposed to be by the people, for the people, etc. But at this point, it's really not.
No, absolutely not.
That much is clear as day. But the Council on Foreign Relations, like I said, I watched a little documentary about it years and years ago. I didn't look it up for this episode, but that seemed to be the kickoff point for the behind the scenes activity.
So, see, the way I look at things like that is, I mean, exactly what I can't disagree with the Electoral College, the popularity and all that jazz, right? So the rulescape that we've been under since you and I have been alive, and we were born, not too long ago. I'll say in the 70s for myself. I'm not going to give no specifics, but anyways, I'm a 70s baby, but I'm no boomer, you know what I'm saying? However, the boomers are the ones that kind of raised me, and I knew the greatest generation, my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother. I've known them, so I've had conversations.
In other words, you're old as fuck.
Hey, anyway. But the bigger scheme of where I'm going with... What kind of old person
noise was that?
This is what it is. The bigger scheme at play here is the presidents, for us, because we're in the United States, have all been in contact with foreign leaders previous our existence, right? During our great-grandparents' time, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course.
This cabal, if you will, of one percenters have been following that plan. And because people, the illusion of people that live or have great wealth have long dynasties, right? They a lot of the children and the great grandchildren all know the elders. They don't get killed off here recently. Yeah. So that span of life and idea lasts through the generations a lot longer than we who don't have that type of scenario. Because a lot of the times both parents will die off or some things like that. When you're poor, more things happen to you and your dynasty doesn't last quite as long, is what I'm trying to go with.
Well, yeah, and it's all about bloodlines with the elites, right? It's all about bloodlines,
So as they're creating that...
Wait.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Who was that little girl who did like a school project years ago? Like maybe it was in 2008 or 7, 8, 9, something like that. Yeah. She did a school project where she did like a little genealogy research on Barack Obama, and she linked him with every other president that's ever been in office.
Oh yeah, I know what you're referencing there.
Like they're all like related in some way, which everybody's kind of related in some way, right? Every single person on the planet, but they were like second, third cousin related type deal. Oh. It was really close.
But is everybody really related? That's for another show, probably.
Yeah.
That's side jokes aside. You get the idea though of lineage and legacy essentially. So the people that are these 1%ers, they haven't deviated from the course of, back in the day that the Illuminati was going to be created. If anything, they've evolved everything to keep up with the times and the technology. And from my point of view right now, we're under a big freaking crunch. I mean, most people have heard of the Great Reset and all of this quote unquote conspiracy theory. I mean, half of which has turned out to be just conspiracy, and there's no theory involved anymore. It's fucking fact. So if we...
Yeah, I think ever since the Gulf of Tonkin thing came out to be absolutely true, and was an inside job, false flag operation, if you will.
Right.
You have to look back at the rest of American history and say, well, what else was an inside job? What else was a false flag operation that they said so-and-so did this and we went to war and, fucked them up because of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 9/11 is a prime example of that for,
oh,
me
my God.
personally, because I was there, not necessarily in New York, but I watched the world stand still, and I was a part of the stillness. It's just like, what the hell happened? Know? But my daughter has no effing clue about it, other than what I've told her. Right. She doesn't have that emotional attachment. So,
Well, I remember I had this dude. My roommates in college were literally insane. Okay, but just I have to preface that because this guy, one of my roommates, woke me up that morning, and he's laughing like crazy. His face was red. He was almost like crying, laughing so hard.
Let's hold off for just a moment.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
All right, and we're back. So, listen, I didn't mean to cut you off like that, but I knew that heartbreak was coming up. So, please continue on. If we can get back on track.
Yeah. So he wakes me up in the morning, right? And he's just like laughing so hard he's crying almost. He's like, you got to come see this. This is freaking amazing. This is the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life. So I go out in the living room. They got the TV going, and I think it's a movie they're watching. Right. So you see like these clips of a plane flying into the freaking World Trade Centers. And I'm like, what movie is this? And he's like, this is actually fucking happening. It was insane. Like you couldn't believe what the fuck you were seeing, basically.
Right.
But again, that's a whole nother show in and of itself.
Absolutely. Right. So, but what came out of that? More control for the United States, more so than most other countries. However, the control that the United States put upon itself was then a threat to everyone else, because you came, quote unquote, at us. So now we're going to come at you. It moved most of what I've known, other than the first, Gulf War, which was like, I think 2 weeks it lasted. It was like a mini series on television is what it felt like. Didn't seem like a war existed or anything like that. And now, granted, I know it lasted longer than that and all that jazz, but that's because I was a lot younger and absolutely cared nothing about politics or any of that jazz at that point. So it was in one ear out the other, and that's the time reference I had. But 9/11, absolutely stopped dead still. And then from that came all of this new sense of, all right, attack mode from my point of view. And it was directed, obviously, in the sands over in the Middle East. So as an American, I'm thinking, glad it's not over here. But at the same token, I'm just like, I don't believe the actual narrative of the control grab to begin with. So I can't really support the war or any of its functionality. Yeah.
So who's pulling the strings there, right?
Exactly.
Who's making the decision? And I'll just be honest here. I'm going to put it on record that I think 9/11 was an absolute inside job. They had training scenarios the week before this happened, or like a few days before this happened. The exact same scenario: planes flying into buildings at the Pentagon.
Right.
So they were prepared for something like this, clearly,
absolutely.
And they did nothing to stop it from happening when it actually did happen. Nothing. So they knew this was coming. They didn't stop it.
And from that came the freaking Patriot Act for us as internal, which now has evolved into the 702 FISA crap that we're living under that just recently got passed, right? So the government has free will to just gobble up all the data that exists from any device from around the world. Foreign is what it was set up to be for the initial part because it was part of the Patriot Act to go after the quote unquote enemy of the people, which was, all right, we got to create a rule to spy on the world, is what that was. And then they've turned that tool on the internal portion of the United States now. So,
yeah.
Why?
And that's how it always goes. There's always an external threat where we need to erode your personal liberties in order to protect you better from this external threat. Right. And then it just never goes away. It just stays forever, even if the threat's now gone, which it is. For the most part. I mean, the threat at that moment was Osama bin Laden and the Taliban, and we fucking got that guy, apparently. So the threat's gone, but the regulation still remains, right? So
correct. And that's absolute crap. And that gets pushed down from in my opinion, the WEF. Because if you've ever watched any of the conferences that they put up online, I mean, you and I don't care if we were still, rich or not. We're not part of that club. I mean, you've got to be some sort of bootlicker to be part of that bunch. But they've created things like Agenda 21 and Agenda 30 and Agenda 50 and all these other agenda crap that if you go and read those documentations, shit has happened. The post that I had given about the 1963, and that was somebody who read that into the congressional record, right? Saying, hey, this is a possibility on China alone. So China is, something that we've built up over the decades. Everything used to say made in the USA on the little labels when I grew up until I want to say 16, 17. But then all of a sudden, it's just, I never seen another made in the USA label unless I went hunting for it specifically. Everything always says made in China. So why would America, what is it in America's interest to pump up another nation? Well, it's not. It's a person that's sitting behind the scenes, call it a Rothschild or whatever you want to, somebody that's, in a club that we're not even aware exists unless you've watched some shit that Alex Jones has popped off. And man, dude's batting 1,000 in my opinion. So just go back and watch some of his shit.
Frogs are gay thing was kind of, he I think that was a swing and a miss, but
I don't know. I think they found out that the frogs are
fluoride in the water and making the frogs gay.
But
anyway,
right.
Alex Jones is the character, but I will give him respect for his docu-series he came out with. You kind of made him famous, put him on the map about the Bilderberger group,
right?
And the secret ceremonies they were doing, and all the people that were showing up there. And he started asking people questions. They didn't like those questions clearly.
Oh no!
So
and see that's.
I'll give him respect for that, but I think he went off the fucking deep end years ago, and just something, I don't know. He went down too many rabbit holes and never came out one of them.
Well, alcoholics, any kind of addict of any kind is going to rabbit hole themselves and never really come back. Can't deny that. However, there's the Bilderberg, right? We wouldn't know about them if it wasn't for him. Right. So he went down a rabbit hole and exposed something that then turned around and allowed others to go, well, let's dive a little deeper. And then every time you dive a little deeper, there's a new villain, a new project, a new attempt at altering a lot of things, whether it's...
Well, it's like peeling an onion.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many layers do you have to peel off before you find the fucking center of it? That's kind of the way I feel about this. You can peel off this layer. You're looking at that. And you're like, okay, what's in there? Oh, I found this other group or cult or whatever the fuck, and this other list of high wealth, high profile people. And then I peel that layer off, and what's in there? And you keep fucking peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling. What's at the center? I think that's the main question here. What's at the very center of this?
And why? Not only so much what is there, it is the why. Obviously, it's control. But to what end?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because right now, look at everything. Everything's a hell in a handbasket.
Consolidation of power. I would say consolidation of power. Again, bloodlines, right? I want to keep my bloodline in in the current state of being super wealthy, super powerful, have a lot of political influence, have a lot of, so I want to keep my family line, my lineage here or better for the future. So it's all consolidation of power into, as much as they can get. It's kind of like, you work all your life and you try to save up to give your kids something when you die, kind of like that, except with political pull and obviously wealth and clout, I guess, with leaders of the world.
So, but what is taking over? All right. I know America has got way more freedoms, or are supposed to have more freedoms than majority of other countries around the globe, right? So, is the goal to have, say, a China-like environment where, to go in and out of your neighborhood, you got to go through a gated thing that has facial recognition and tracking devices on your phone to make sure you are who you say you are before you can even get in your neighborhood, right? If so, what is the point for the person that is in absolute control?
Well, I heard something
do they know
funny
something
the other day.
We don't know?
I heard something funny the other day. People talking about, voting. Whenever a presidential election is rolling close, you see all these ads on television and everywhere, plastered all over the walls, everywhere you go, rock the vote, get out and vote. Your vote matters. Your vote counts, right? So when it comes to voting, my opinion matters. What I think matters, apparently. But when it comes to everything else, the government seems to think I'm too damn stupid to make a decision.
Or don't know how to go get an ID or some dumb shit.
Yeah. So,
but that's precisely my point.
Think about that, though. Why do they want people who they think are too stupid to make basic life choices for themselves to vote?
Well, I mean, the only thing that pops into my head right away is just control. They want to be able to make a move wherever they want them to move and do. So, but where I was going, though, is a grander scheme of things. If it's a lineage thing and a bloodline thing, and they're playing a game that we are already 500 steps behind, right? And we've got no clue what the next step is that's coming towards us until, it's well underway. We just haven't hit that particular, variable yet, if you will. If they're planning out 1,000 years in advance, what the hell do they know that we just have no clue? Like, and I'm going to bring up the MH7, video thing, the technology. If that video is real, they zapped a plane out in the middle of freaking air and recorded it. So
yeah,
is this all part of?
I think that's a good enough. I think that's a good enough video that we're probably going to link this in the description of whatever the hell, wherever the show shows up at.
Okay.
Watch that shit. Okay. Watch that fucking video and tell me it's fake. I dare you. It's really
there's plenty of people that
difficult.
are really attempting it too. I'll even include the Reddit posts for the $150,000 challenge to say that this can be made in CG or can be made.
If you can debunk it, $150,000 is in your pocket the next day.
Yeah.
Right. You successfully debunk it. So it's crazy as fuck. But so getting back to who's in control, though. I mean. When it comes to,
good.
Well, go ahead. No.
Well, I'm just, my point is what is the game they're playing, right? If we can even begin to figure out what the hell the game is, is it? I go back to my delusion of when I open my eyes, the world is made for me by me subconsciously, right? So, are we part of a program that's just trying to find the end to the variable? So that's the only thing that I always come to when it comes to these people that are in power. It is just a program trying to mentally shape, put the world in an emotional state to get the outcome variable that whatever the hell happened in the future or whatever's got to come back and be redone, or whoever's programming the damn computer. So that's why I personally think, and that's why these elusive 1%ers that control everything behind the scenes even exists. Because without that, computer variable, what is the point? I mean, because they're just destroying the world, so they're going to inhabit Fallout. Why do you want to inhabit Fallout? Kind of where I was going with that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe you know why they're thinking it.
I don't know, but I got to pause for a second. Be right back.
Okay.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
All right, so why would they be playing this game of extreme control over everything and everyone, every nation, basically under the thumb of a handful of people, And really, I think what it boils down to is control. Some people just want control for no other reason than control and power and wealth accumulation, this type of thing.
So you're saying it's control for control's sake?
Basically, I mean, control for control's sake, because that's how you stay in power, is you control everyone else around you.
Okay.
The tyrants have done this for, millennia. Saddam Hussein is a prime modern example of control for control's sake. He got into power by whatever means, and I think it was the next day after he was elected, whatever they call their leader, their president or whatever, he invited all of his opponents. El Presidente. He invited all of his opponents to, come in and talk about politics and, have a little powwow. And as soon as the last person walked in the door, they locked the doors behind him and mowed them all down with machine guns, Yeah. So he basically cemented his power by eliminating all his competition. So if you can consolidate all the wealth in the world and all the political clout, then who is going to oppose you if no one can outbid you? In other words, if no one has the wealth that you have, if no one has the resources that are available to you to match you, who is going to challenge you?
Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't misnomer that, but there's the end result of, say, the Great Reset, for example, is 500,000 people on the planet, right? No more, no less. Everybody has a specific job. Everybody lives in a specific place. They can't go no further than 15 minutes of where they live, and they've got to do it by foot, right? So the green...
So you're referencing the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Well, not so much the Georgia Guidestones as Agenda 21, if I'm not mistaken, was part of that, and it's been morphed into Agenda 30. The Great Reset is, if I'm not mistaken, the Great Reset's plans are by 2030, 2035 or some jazz like that. Or that's when it begins to be in full swing. I'll have to re-reference it again. I'm just going by memory. But the play is to knock, down the population, right? By any and all means necessary to where it's low. Each region of the world, everything's divvied up by regions. Why? Because the UN is now under control, right? And we're playing the fucking Hunger Games here at this point in time, is what I'm referencing here. And they want to divvy up the world associated to that. To what end? I mean, yeah, the people that lived in the capital had what they thought was beauty and glamour and all that jazz, but they didn't. They lived in a bubble, while the people that were, in my opinion, out in the woods, Katniss or whatever the hell her name is, for me, that would be the great life. I get to raise my kids. No police is around to mess with me. Nobody's out here, jacking with shit. I can go out here and farm and do food, right? Leave me alone. Let me live my life, essentially, is what I'm referencing here. So if that is quote unquote the good life, but the good life is the populace living inside the city, they're so reliant on all of these chains that have the ability to collapse. Food and all that jazz has got to be shipped to them. They don't fend for themselves. Water and all that jazz is, got to be pumped into them. They don't know how to make a well, or whatever the case may be. The elite rely on us. So if they're going to enslave us, for example, you would think that they would want more population, not less. Why? Because they would need to move things a lot faster. And the more you have, people cultivating the food, the bigger your family of a rich person could be. Right? But if you've only got one person acting as a hostage to do your work, you're only going to get the output of one person. You're not going to live high and dry.
Now we get... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but now we kind of delve into like a cross between what you're talking about and AI. And I can imagine a scenario where you're talking about 2030, 2035 being the end goal for this project of reducing the population down. By that time, you're going to have, you have that being, I'm sorry, what?
I meant to say that it's in swing. That's when it begins its motion.
Okay. So, but at that point, since AI has come so far so fast now in 2024, with I had to think about that for a second. my brain starts rubbing together real fast right now. So, so at that point, at 2030. 2035, something like that. I mean, AI is going to progress at an astounding rate, I think, at this point. You're going to have most menial tasks like perhaps freight loading and freight unloading on big ships, shipper freighters, warehouse jobs, every factory job you can imagine, right? It's because a lot of them are automated now and have been for decades, but you're going to see probably all of them being automated by that time. Basic housework robots and shit that Korea's been working on and Japan's been working on for a couple decades, and by 2030, they want a maid robot in everybody's house in Asia, basically. So would they really need that many people at that point? I mean, because you're gonna have a shift in the ability for the common person, the peasantry, if you will, to find and keep wage-paying jobs. So you're either going to have to change how the economy functions to give everybody a living wage so they can survive and still buy things and keep the economy moving, or get rid of a whole bunch of people so it's not a problem.
Yeah.
See what I'm getting at there?
Yeah. I mean, I can see I know the lure of utopia, if you will, because I mean, that's what they say that they're going to create by exterminating whatever, choose whatever word you will, but felling off half of the population, or down to say 500,000 in reference to the Georgia Stones there. I think it's a little more than that in the agendas and all that. But the fact still is when the population is down that small and the people that exist know that they're there as a slave, the output of that person is not going to be what the 1% needs, right? Because just because population shrinks, that control mechanism for power, the 1% is now, dwindled down to potentially one person, and then that person's going to rule over all of the world. Obviously, it's not one person. The UN would be multiple, leaders from each place, but probably one leader from each continent. And those 12 people, I think there's more than 12, or 7 to 12, whatever the case may be, country is what I'm actually referencing here. There'll be specialized countries. Russia's borders will morph, the EU's borders will morph, UK's and, United States and all that would probably morph, Canada, US, and Mexico will probably become, North America, for example, or NA or some shit. I don't know. But it would morph down
that was
to
supposed
where...
to be in 2001. Yeah.
Right, that's very true. And then they pushed heavily for it. The Amero was pushed for quite a while. The American, Mexican, and Canadian dollar, right? You watch and see if that doesn't happen with the CBDCs that they're trying to push. So... But,
well, my question now is who decides who lives and who gets quelled,
Right. And who gives
that
them
kind of goes
permission?
back to your original question. Right. And yeah, that goes back to your original question. Who's pulling the fucking strings behind the scenes? Who makes the decisions really? And that's probably who's going to be making that decision.
And if my brain tells me anything, right, the people that sit at WEF, the WHO, I would say the president of the 5 most largest, and I'm not even going to say the president, be honest with you, somebody who has been of great importance in each country of the largest populations on the planet, Russia, America, China, India,
So the banks, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. That's exactly what I was struggling to grab. So, but yes, the Fed, if you will, or the Rothschilds era of dynasty of types of people, they're the ones that are attempting to do it. And I think they've got their work cut out for them, if you will. Because people like me, right? I don't know, people like you who listen to people like me initially, right? Because I know me and you have, we're not eye to eye. That's the reason this podcast exists, is to see if I can pull a wrinkle into your brain and you to either smooth some of mine out or wrinkle mine up as well. So it's just like, hey, you're on the wrong line of thinking. Let's iron that piece out and then repave a new wrinkle. But I think people
can
like
a bonobo with a smooth brain give another bonobo a wrinkle, or is it just going to be smooth all around by the end of it?
That's probably just going to be smooth, but that's beside the point. Actually, it is the point. I don't know what I'm saying there. But take all of these big ass things that happen and boil them down to watching people that shuffle behind the scenes. Because the puppet that's in front of you squawking and dancing is the distraction, right? It's always the movers and shakers that you see slightly in the background just pop themselves up repeatedly. And when you got people that look like James Bond villains and Emperor Palpatine just shelling out cash loads of funds to everywhere across
Henry
our
Kissinger
country.
was Henry Kissinger was a good example of that.
Yeah.
Where he would just be there all the time, no matter who the president was, no matter who was in control of Congress, which side, he was always there somewhere influencing whoever it was, right?
Yep.
For
and that
decades.
Evolved to Bush, to Cheney.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about funding and like who's pulling the strings of American politics, I don't think we have to look too much farther than the Citizens United ruling that happened fairly recently in American history. I mean, and I get this. I looked up a little bit of stuff here from my source is the Brennan Center for Justice Analysis, and we can link that here as well. But, in essence, this was a group called Citizens United, wanted to promote their documentary about presidential candidate Hillary Clinton in 2008, okay? And they wanted to do it within 60 days of the general election, which was illegal, basically.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
So they went all the way to the Supreme Court to fight for their right to release this documentary that basically shit all over Hillary Clinton. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And 3 out of the 5 Supreme Court justices ruled that, quote, independent spending cannot be corrupt, end quote, and assumed the spending would be transparent. Since they were being funded by organizations or not-for-profits and things like this to create this documentary. So they were saying, okay, independent spending is not going to be corrupted. The spending is going to be transparent. You've got to report who your donors are. Both of these assumptions turned out to be incorrect, obviously. We know that now. But they use money from for-profit and not-for-profit organizations to produce the documentary, which meant before this ruling, they weren't allowed to release the documentary so close to an election.
Right. Okay.
After this ruling that allowed them to do this, super PACs were created. Now, before then, PACs are the only things that existed, which were political action committees. They were allowed a maximum of $5,000 to contribute directly to a candidate's run for office.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Everything was limited
per year. Yeah, per year. Now, after the Citizens United ruling that basically says money is free speech and you cannot limit free speech, super PACs were created, and they're still not allowed to contribute directly to a candidate more than $5,000 annually, but indirectly, they're unlimited. So they can create documentaries, they can create commercials, they can do whatever they want to do to influence the population, as long as it's not a direct contribution to a candidate. So they are required to disclose their donors, but most of their donors come from what's called dark money groups, which is like a not-for-profit organization that doesn't need to list their donors. So they kind of funnel it through a single organization that doesn't need to release who they're getting their money from. So
when was that we made? You got the publishing date there on that?
No.
Okay. I think for some reason 2012, somewhere in that time frame is ringing a bell for me. So,
well, this all happened in 2008.
Okay. So
the ruling.
Okay. But the law probably didn't kicked into effect or didn't pass until 2012, to where it was actually reversed, and then from that point forward, the big money was able to pour in freely. So if it was debated in 8, say 11, 12, maybe it came through. Good.
Well, here's a quote I pulled from that website. And again, I got the links and all that. So Super PAC money started influencing elections almost immediately after Citizens United. From 2010 to 2018, Super PACs spent approximately $2.9 billion on federal elections. Notably, the bulk of that money comes from just a few wealthy individual donors. In the 2018 election cycle, for example, the top 100 donors to Super PACs contributed nearly 78% of all Super PAC spending. And then dark money expenditures increased from less than $5 million in 2006 to more than $300 million in the 2012 election cycle, and more than $174 million in the 2014 midterms. So in the top 10 most competitive 2014 Senate races, more than 71% of the outside spending on the winning candidate was dark money. It's from the same website. So
Okay. So yeah, 2 years
And
after they discussed it. Interesting.
Right. And here's what you're going to like. I mentioned to you before we started the show, you're going to like a little piece of this. Here's a quote from the same website, same source.
Yeah.
Quote, because they can hide the identities of their donors, dark money groups also provide a way for foreign countries to hide their activity from U.S. voters and law enforcement agencies. This increases the vulnerability of U.S. elections to internal interference. End quote.
There's the back door.
Yeah.
That's the UN, WEF, WHO's back door, right? I mean, even the WHO's new policy for where the pandemic preparedness crap that they want to have be issued out. You know, if we sign that, I think it's on either the House floor or the Senate floor, just waiting to be, enacted. That allows the UN, or not the UN, but the WHO to just slide right in here and take over our entire medical industry, right? Say who's allowed to get drugs, who's not allowed to get drugs, and all that shit. And there's nothing a single state could do or the federal government could do to stop them. Some states have enacted laws saying, F no, the WHO doesn't have anything, you can't do shit in our state. So congrats to those states that have done that. I think all 50 should do that, but we know we're not going to have that occur because we're just too divided right now. But therein lies.
And it is states' rights, right? They can make that decision. The governor makes that decision, right? And supposedly through the governor, the people are making that decision, but we know that's not the case. But
well, not always, but there are some states that if you look at a large portion of how their delegates or their constituents vote does seem to coincide with what they're pushing through. However, they do have the rogue, governor or whatever the case may be that's just completely opposite agenda. But as Missouri, for example, is what I'm referencing here. I think it's Missouri or Mississippi. I'm brain farting for some reason on those two. But that being the case, Missouri is what I'm thinking. So
Mississippi.
So that being said, we being the United States are the biggest obstacle to the one percenters, right? Or the elite one percenters. And I hate calling these people elite because these people couldn't chop down a tree if they needed to save their life, right? But, you and me who can sit here and have a discussion about all this crap do have our specialties in, each individual thing that you and I are pretty good at. So we're not dumb people is what I'm getting at. But these people that are in control
Speak for yourself.
Are just, I don't know, they're wannabe puppeteers, and I can't believe that people fall for it so willingly, right? Not only did, like you said, what was that bill that you just read a second ago? It was the
Citizens United versus something. Federal
so
something.
Citizens United leads into the same time frame of when the media's stranglehold on being able to release propaganda was relinquished, right? So from that point forward, that allowed these third-party control groups, if you will, the UN, WHO, et cetera, to start getting their fish hooks into the back rooms, if you will, of government, right? Because they've now got an unlimited way to fund what they want. So here comes George Soros's money, right? Funneling all the DAs that are causing all the kind of bull crap around the country. In my opinion, I'm not a leftist. I'm not hardcore right. I'm just a very conservative country bumpkin. Okay, so and we're opposite on quite a few things. You and I are disagreeing quite a few things, but that's what makes you and I
you say
a
that,
good
take
fit.
your goddamn red ass MAGA hat off when you say that, okay? That's an insult to your
I did.
listeners.
I put the blue one on. I got the red one over on the shelf right now. The blue one's on right this second.
You just put the blue back hat on? Okay, well, that's fair.
And I can do
That's
that
fair.
because I was born and raised in Michigan. 22 years of my life, I was a liberal. And then for the last 20 years, I've been, a conservative. So I'd like to think I can parlay on both sides pretty easily. But these people have been given free reign over here. And we're the big obstacle that is under attack right now. You can see it with all the crap that goes on, us sending our money to Ukraine and stuff like that. But the quote-unquote elite people are paying off a very small group of imbeciles over here to get their way. And I do believe, in my opinion, that it's just going to end in complete fallout. I mean, watch Fallout if you haven't already. It's a pretty decent television show, I think. Everybody's got their own opinion. So, but the outcome of we, the super smart, if you will, and rich people know better for what's going on across the entire planet, and will do X, Y, and Z to cause the division. And when the world is just destroyed, if you follow Fallout storyline, we'll still control the division and rebuild the way we want to, right? But the point of Fallout's TV or the game, if I'm not mistaken, is there's no coming back. When the fallout happens, that's it. Game over. You've destroyed the planet. And I'm pretty sure that if they're going off of lineage line of gameplay theory or control theory, if you will, that we've hit a point where AI is super smart for you and I to play with at home. They've got toys that are far beyond us if they can disappear planes. So if the AI is that damn smart, they know what's going to happen in the end, potentially 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
Is the spraying in the sky so that they can combat that particular method? You know, I hate calling them elites because they're not. They're just a bunch of pompous pricks with money. So, and money is the root of all evil. So we've all been told. I don't know, man. I'm kind of rambling here, but everything ties together, and it all stems from these elites, and the elites are messing with us.
Well, you know, you were talking about Ukraine, and you brought this up to me earlier. I pulled up today, apparently this morning,
the bill.
They had the appropriations bills were going out for a bunch of different shit. One of which is titled HR 8035, the Ukraine Security Supplemental Appropriations Act 2024. So HR 8035. Making emergency supplemental appropriations to respond to the situation in Ukraine and for related expenses for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, and for other purposes. Very, very specific, of course, as they always are. Scrolling down a little bit, operation and maintenance defense-wide for an additional amount for, quote, operations and maintenance defense-wide, end quote, $27.93 billion to remain available until December 31st, 2024 to respond to the situation in Ukraine and for related purposes, related expenses. Yeah. That's $28 billion. $28 billion with a B.
Right. And you and I will never, ever probably see $50 million in our lifetime, right? We probably will, our entire life of working and spending, we probably won't come to that dollar amount. So where the hell is the B coming from if that's an M that we will never see? And it's a fraction of what the hell, you know, they're stealing it from your daughter and my sons, right? So, and that goes across the board. That's why I say the game of these elites we were born into. We really have no clue of what all these conspiracies are, but we know that they're not theories because the rapid succession of which they fired their last salvo is all the theory has turned to fact, which means that there is a man behind the curtain, and his name is not Oz. It's a group of people that think that they know better. So, my question for everybody is when the hell is a bonobo going to just get a wrinkle and go, an idea occurred? Because you got the American Senate waving flags of Ukraine in the House or in the Senate chambers, right? All of the Democrats are waving them around. All because they passed that appropriations bill. For what?
Yeah.
If you look at videos that are coming out of Ukraine, it looks like they're having one hell of a party over there. I've seen multiple videos,
Oh,
if they're true,
wait a minute.
but it's propaganda.
Oh, God. Damn it. Since I didn't pause it, it's the end of the show.
Well, it's still going for me on my end. So if you want to get your last final thoughts
Yeah.
in, we've got a good 30 seconds or so.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. Well,
I think we beat this horse as much as we can. We don't know who the fuck it is.
Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then.